Ladies and gentlemen, what's going on? My name is Denonu, the man with the biggest and the most blackest privilege on YouTube. And this was a video that I didn't really want to make, but being a huge Venom fan, I figured I had to make it. So I'm going to be talking about the Venom teaser that came out. I don't know if it came out yesterday or the day before. I'm just gonna be giving my thoughts on it, my impressions of the movie just in general, and what I think they have to, I guess, get right to make this a decent Venom movie. Right out the gate, just to tell you my history with the character, I grew up reading Venom comics from the 90s. Probably Spider-Man, X-Men, a little bit of the Avengers because they weren't really big back then. But you know, I was reading all the popular hits coming out of the older Infinity War from the late 80s coming into the 90s, and I've been reading comic books ever since. Since Spider-Man and the X-Men were probably like my two favorite comic book characters, more Spider-Man than anything else. I read everything in regarding Venom for the most part. So I know about the character, I know what they're supposed to be, things like that. I know how Eddie Brock is, you know, as Venom. I really didn't care for the whole Flash Thompson being Venom. I really didn't care about that other new guy, that new villain guy who was some bullshit, or even Matt Gargan when they had the Scorpion being Venom for like a few years during Civil War and all of that stuff after that. But with this movie here, right? My impressions right out the gate, right when they were like, oh, we're making a Venom movie, I was like, oh shit, Sony's gonna fuck this shit up right out the gate. And that's because when they were announcing it, they was like, oh, we're making a Venom movie. And I was like, okay, is it gonna have Spider-Man in it? Nobody knew at that time. So I'm like, okay, well, they're gonna try to make a Venom movie without Spider-Man, and that's something you cannot do. given the nature of the character, you can't have Venom without Spider-Man. It doesn't work. For those of you who don't know, Venom gets the majority of his superpowers from Peter Parker. That's just how that is. That's why he, you know, web slings. That's why he has super strength, speed, agility, all of that extra bullshit that Spider-Man has. That's why Venom has it too. And why Venom doesn't trigger Spider-Man's spider sense. Because the symbiote bonded with Peter Parker first, and then when it moved on to Eddie Brock, since it bonded with him, it kind of put his powers with Eddie Brock when it grafted to him and bonded with him and everything. So that's why I said if you just have a Venom movie without Spider-Man, and let's say you don't bring Spider-Man in there at all, it's kind of one of those things where it's just like, okay, well, the only powers he should have is maybe shape-shifting, because the Venom symbiote can shape-shift into clothing and things like that and make itself like look like a brick wall, things like that. That's how Venom used to get away from Spider-Man every now and then, when he would camouflage, make himself look like a brick wall, and then Spidey can't detect him, and he can't see him either. So that's really like the only ability that Venom has. You know, I'm sure maybe the alien costume, maybe it probably pumps up his strength a little bit, but he's nowhere on Spider-Man's level without Spider-Man getting the suit first. And that was like half of the character. Eddie Brock, for those of you who don't know, was pissed at Spider-Man. I'm not gonna get into why, it really doesn't matter. But Spider-Man had the black suit at first, he got rid of it. So the alien costume hated Spider-Man, and then Eddie Brock, for his reason, hated Spider-Man too. So then when Peter Parker cast it off, it went to Eddie Brock. They both hated Spider-Man. They both joined up and they became Venom. You know, Venom wasn't really officially the name of this, you know, the alien costume until later. But Venom was their name that they went by. It wasn't the name of like the costume. Later on, they kind of changed that a little bit, and then Venom became like, okay, that's the name of the costume, not the costume and Venom, or the costume and Eddie Brock rather. I'm sorry. So when they went into this movie, And it's like, okay, I see what runs they're doing. I think they're doing the whole lethal protector thing. And I see he has an ex-wife, so I'm hoping they're not doing the whole She-Venom thing, because that was garbage. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love the lethal protector arc. That was like one of my favorite things from Venom, was when he was like, I want to try to be like Spider-Man, but I'm gonna be better. In his mind, and his weird, warped, crazy mentality, his thing was like, I'm gonna be Spider-Man. I'm gonna prove I'm better than Spider-Man. That was his whole thing. But, but it's a really big but. It's like a really big black booty of a butt. In his mind, he was like the Punisher. He would kill people. So whenever he would, fight and save people, don't get me wrong, he would save people, but then he would turn around and kill bad guys like the Punisher. He wasn't like Spider-Man where he didn't kill nobody. That was his anti-hero thing. I don't know if they're gonna go that far in the movie, because Venom, during the whole lethal protector thing, coming out of that, Venom kind of had like a dark time where he was like going around eating people's brains. I'm pretty sure they're probably not going to roll that into the movie. They're probably gonna, it depends on how dark they want to get, but I seriously doubt they're going to leave that alone. They're probably just going to have him be like the anti-hero. Yeah, he might kill people and that's it. I'm guessing that's where they're going to take it, but I know this is a teaser trailer, so they haven't really said anything about it except this, so I can't judge it harshly. So far, I mean, they're just showing Tom Hardy. It's like, hey, Tom Hardy's Venom. Okay, like we came here to see Venom, not Tom Hardy, or at least in my eyes, I mean, I think he's okay as an actor, but there's a lot in this trailer I'm not feeling. Number one, I'm guessing, I'm hoping in later trailers, in this film, they have to reference Spider-Man. You don't have to show it. You don't have to film it. You don't have to show Peter Parker getting the suit and all that. You have to reference how they got this suit. And from what I hear now, they say Peter Parker's in the movie, but I don't know if they mean Spider-Man is in it in some capacity. I mean, I'm guessing he's going to be in like one scene or something like that. But you have to mention the suit being on, let's say, Spider-Man first. Even if they don't even mention Spider-Man, let's say they, when they're talking about, oh, where did you get the suit? They're like, oh, a scientist guy found it in New York. We don't know where it came from, but it was supposedly seen around the time Spider-Man had his new black costume. We don't have to show him with it. We don't have to show the whole backstory of him casting it off, because everybody, if you're a Venom fan, you already know that. But you have to reference that the suit came from New York and somehow Spider-Man was involved. Hell, have an alien ship crash and just have Peter Parker like try to save something. I have no idea. But as far as I know, like, I don't even know if this is going to be in the MCU or not. And that's like the big whole thing too, is they haven't came out and I guess clarified anything. As far as I know, it's just been rumors and conjecture without them confirming it. I don't know, maybe they did confirm it. I don't know. I know I don't follow it like that, but I follow a bunch of people on YouTube who do follow said things, and I watch all their videos and stuff like that. So I don't think anybody confirmed it, but you have to have Spider-Man in there somewhere. Otherwise, the movie's not going to make sense. If they go with the ultimate origin of Venom, again, you still have to have Peter Parker. Because the ultimate origin of Venom was a little bit different. Instead of being like an alien costume from another planet, it was more like a biological creation that Peter Parker's dad and Eddie Brock's dad made in a lab. If they go with that aspect, again, you still got to have Peter Parker in there. Because he still has to get those powers from Spider-Man. Otherwise, your main hero doesn't have any powers. And it's not a superhero movie without nobody having powers. So they still have to explain that transition. That's all I'm saying with that. It has to involve Peter Parker in there somewhere. From the teaser, it looks like what appears to be an alien ship crash. So it's one of those things where it's like, okay, are they just going to say that an alien ship crashed? Somehow the symbiote got attached to Eddie Brock and he became Venom? Because from what the teaser is going by, it looks like Eddie Brock just kind of, he went for like a medical test and an MRI machine, and somehow became Venom. Like the MRI gave him the alien symbiote. So I don't know how that works. Like he must have got like an alien STD or something, and oops, that's where the alien costume comes from. I'm hoping they explain that. From what I hear, the latter part of the movie is probably going to deal with the Life Foundation stuff. And if they're going with that route, I'm assuming they're going to have the other symbiotes in the movie. Again, for those of you who don't know, in the comic books, the Life Foundation was this organization that basically saw how Venom created Carnage. For those of you who don't know, again, because I got to explain all of this for non-comic book fans, the Venom symbiote can basically have children every so often. And it made Carnage, let's say naturally. The people in the Life Foundation figured that out and was like, okay, let's see if we can manually trigger this process so that we can basically have our symbiote super soldiers or whatever. So they kidnapped Venom, took the symbiote off of him, I think, and then they basically forced it to spawn 5 symbiote children. And I think if you played the game Separation Anxiety, you fight most of those symbiotes in the game. You had like the gray one, the yellow one, the green one, and they were all basically different aspects of the symbiote and what the symbiote was capable of. But by them being unnaturally birthed, they only had like one or two abilities. Like for instance, Venom can shape change. It can make tendrils and tentacles and things like that, use its own body's mass to make webbing, things like that, right? Carnage was the next step up from that. It had all of that, and then you had the ability, it could shape change and make blades, stabbing weapons, things like that. I don't recall if Carnage could shapeshift into camouflage or not, but he was stronger and faster than Eddie Brock, so in Venom's the symbiote's children, they one of them could, let's say, make blades, but he didn't have anything else. Another one could make tentacles, but he didn't have anything else. So like they only had like one ability from the Venom symbiote. They couldn't get everything like the main normal ones could. I'm assuming that they're gonna go through each one of those people in the movie. I mean, because that's the only reason why you have to do the Life Foundation. That's literally like the only thing they did in the comic books. So that's gonna make 4 or 5 other bad guys that you have to fight in your movie. That's kind of excessive to put all of that on screen. Unless you have like Venom going toe to toe 1 versus 5 at the end of your movie, and that's kind of weird because then he would just get his ass whooped, so I don't know how they are going to explain that. Or maybe in this, they might be like, oh, instead of having like 5 alien, children that they spawn, they're going to make like 2 or 3, or maybe 1. I'm really hoping they don't make 1 and be like, oh, here's Carnage, and I would be pissed. I would be fucking pissed. They better not do that shit. Like they better not just be like, oh, here's your mirror opposite. Here's Carnage. This is what we're gonna call him. You're like, just straight up pull a Deadpool from Wolverine Origins. Fuck no. I'd be so pissed if they just come up and be like, oh, here's this insane guy that we gave this shit to, and oh, here's Carnage. Like, no, fuck no. No, you gotta do Carnage right. I mean, if you're gonna do him, that's like having the Joker in your movie. Like, you can't fuck him up like they did in Suicide Squad. But honestly, it's like I want the movie to succeed. Don't get me wrong, I'm a huge Venom fan, right? I want it to succeed, but I'm just seeing a lot of missteps along the way. And it just seems like they're focusing more on, let's say, making a Venom movie than the character of Venom and what he is and who he is. I'm hoping I'm wrong. I'm hoping that maybe we get a trailer that kind of explains what's going on, because so far it's like I feel like they're just trying to force a Venom movie and they're trying to make it happen without explaining where the suit comes from, because that's like the biggest thing. Like if you want to have Eddie Brock being, Venom in San Francisco, that's fine. That's how it was in the comic books. You can have him on his own, but you have to get him past his origin first. Like if this movie was like, oh, this takes place 5 years in the future, and then it's like, okay, now we have Venom in San Francisco doing his own thing, then I'm like, okay, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, this is 5 years later. But you still gotta explain Spider-Man in there. You have to reference him some kind of way. You can't just make this movie and say fuck Spider-Man, because that's half of the character. You cannot do that. You cannot do what like they're trying to do with Black Cat and Silver Sable and make like a silver and black movie with Spider-Man characters but don't have Spider-Man in it. That's not how it works. Nobody's gonna care. And with Venom being a bigger name than them, that's why I think they're trying to push this movie out. And it just, I don't know, YouTube. I mean, I want it to be great, but so far, I mean, from what this teaser is showing, it looks like it's trying to be decent. I'll say that. But it all depends on where they take the story. Like I said, you have to include Spider-Man. You have to include that anger that both Venom, Eddie Brock, and the symbiote feel towards Spider-Man. You have to wrap that up in there some kind of way, because that's half the character. You can't have Tom Hardy being mad at the world and just suddenly he gets this alien costume and it's just, oh, I'm an anti-hero. No, it doesn't work. It doesn't work. You have to explain that transition. And I have a feeling they're just gonna try to just say fuck it and just make it work. This is our movie. And I think fans are gonna rip them a new one if that's the case, because that's not who Venom is. And I just don't know where they can take it. You know what I'm saying? Like, if this is a part of the MCU, fine, cool. It could be its own little side thing. You don't have to include anybody else in it except Spider-Man. You don't even have to show Spider-Man in it. I mean, I'm just hoping that scene with him in it, or with Peter Parker in it, kind of explains how he got the costume. Hell, I mean, even if you cut out all of the New York stuff, you have to have like Peter Parker show up in San Francisco, have the ship crash or whatever, him get the suit. You know, even if you show it for like 5 or 10 minutes. I mean, granted, that's kind of quick, but if it were me, and if it were me and I was making this movie, I would beg Marvel to throw in a scene in Infinity War that shows Peter Parker getting the alien costume. You know, I don't see why they wouldn't do it. I mean, you know, granted, like if you kick them out some money, they probably do that shit. I mean, hell, throw it in like a little 2-second scene at the end of Infinity War or something. Have him just get the costume. And then in Venom, let's say the movie, when the movie comes out, because I think this comes out in the fall, you can have Venom pick up, let's say, after that, let's say like a year or 2, 3 years, 5 years, whatever. And then you can do your own story. And then you could be like, oh, Spider-Man got this costume. Somehow he didn't want it, you know, and, you know, but I got it now and I'm running and I'm doing my own thing. You know, do it like that. And then you could jump into doing whatever you want to do. You don't even have to explain it at that point, because fans already know that, okay, Spider-Man had the suit, so he gets his powers. You know, that's how he got his powers. That's all you got to do. You know, let fans put the shit together. We're used to putting this shit together. I mean, look at the people who play like Dark Souls and shit, where they figure out the story and they're not being told anything. You know, so it's like, you know, you don't have to handhold us with everything, but you have to establish some kind of lore behind your characters and everything. And that's just, you know, where I think they need to go from it, because you can't just have a Venom movie without Spider-Man and expect it to be as good as it can be. But anyways, guys, that's just my thoughts on the movie here. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. Maybe we can have a discussion or something like that. So my name is Denonu, the man with the biggest and the most blackest privilege on YouTube. And I will see you guys in the next one. Peace out.